supporting the children. And we are getting ready to get started with the honorees tonight, those that will be speaking. So at this time, we ask everybody to please take their seats. Our own laws. I'm a community advocate, activist, 30 years in Asbury Park. Came here 30 years ago because I saw this, and everybody knows Asbury Park in high school had those beautiful women, so I saw one in 30 years. 26 years ago, I got married to her. Valerie right there. Graduate 40 years this year. I hate to say that, but 40 years. So at this time, we're getting ready to commence with the program. And the program is essential to recreate, to reassess, to reaffirm, and to reestablish the fact that our youth are the most important resource that we have. There is no other resource that we need to invest our time in as our youth. And the importance of that is fundamental. So at this time, Superintendent Repoulet, Ms. Sancha Gray will bring all of the individuals to their appointed areas. Reformation and relocation. Understanding that our youth are very valuable to us. And the process that has been started by this new administration, let's give a hand to them for what they have been doing. Superintendent Repoulet and his team have really been working overtime. Let's thank the board members that are here for the work that they're doing. Any school administration, any staff. We have our principals in the audience. Show of hands for the principals. Most importantly, our students in the audience, because without them, there would be no other process. No one else in. Miss Mikki Taylor, Miss Deborah Tillman, and Mr. Steve Perry. Let's hear it for them. One of the elements that I know I love to look at is that our children need us. Our children need us more than we need these. There was a meme that showed a child that said sometimes he wished he was a phone so his parents would give him some attention. Now, when we have technology that takes us away from interpersonal relationships, it develops a gap in the family because our children feel that. So I know this evening we will be discussing that because we not only have people that are qualified to be here, but people that are icons, that are changers, paradigm shifters. Miss Nikki Taylor came into Essence magazine when she was there 30 years before as a student. Had an idea in her head that she was going to get a vocation, a job. And it lasted 30 years. Let's hear for that. The other part of that is that this sister is from Newark, New Jersey. Our sister Deborah Tillman, who was working a very good job, but saw that there were deficiencies in the way and the care her children were receiving. And she decided at that time she was compelled to provide more for her family. And she stopped that pursuit and started her own. She's also from, if I'm not mistaken, East Orange, New Jersey. Let's hear it for Jersey. Now, Brother Steve Perry, Dr. Steve Perry, who started a target school that eliminated and turned around the process that said in everybody's mind that our children cannot excel. He demanded excellence. He posted himself every morning to have contact with his teachers. And he would have a session with them, staff meetings in the morning, to see what they were doing. And he, just like the agrarian culture that we came from, he was like that grandfather who planted those seeds in that field and made sure he tended the soil, made sure he pulled the weeds, made sure he got the best of the harvest as a result. Our people are about producing a product, and that product are our children. That is our greatest product. This is a time now that we're coming into what's called Kwanzaa, the 7 principles of the Nguzo Saba. And this is a time that is, the first principle shows an ingathering. We're no longer out there cropping the tobacco and picking the cotton and doing those other things, but our crop today are these young people that we're working with. These young people that we're trying to get a hold of so the street doesn't get a hold of them. These young people that need to understand that not only what is in their mind, but what their mind can give. And these educators today, they're not just here putting stuff in them. I enjoyed my session yesterday morning because they were bringing things out of the young people, allowing them to use that title, adukere, where the root word of education came from. Adukere, to bring out of. Not, as Ferrer said, the banking institution where you just put things in. And if your recipients can recite them without measure of error, then they have been successful. And we have to get away from the mundane. We have to get away from the normal. We have to get away from the expected. Because our children will surpass all expectations every time. We can never make our expectations too low. And we can never make our expectations too high. Because they will meet them, they will match them, and they will surpass them. In this town, just 3 weeks ago, we had a young lady who was saved by the grace of the Most High, by the grace of God, that she did not move 1 inch in either direction, more toward the inclining, because a bullet grazed her head. 8 years old, came into the comfort of her home and changed her world forever. Her name is Cassie, little Cassie, a member of one of the schools here in Asbury Park. But that is a reality that comes to too many of our people in too many places. And it becomes something that is almost normal. And we don't see that that is normality, that is abnormality. So we need to make a pledge that we do as much as we can to replicate the work that they are doing, to go out and become the change agents within our communities, to go out and become the people like Mama and them who used to ring the bell in the middle of town saying, trouble, trouble, baby, there's trouble, baby. And we would get up and we would say, Mama ringing the bell, let's go and see what's going on. And there were no firehouses, we would go and get buckets and put the water out on the fire. If there was no welfare system, we would go and say, that baby, no, you come with me, child. If there was no process that was there, we in our communities, we created it. If there was a void, we created it, we filled that void. So this is what our panelists have done. And we need to make a pledge to be able to replicate, but first learn from their efforts. And the other part of it is that we learn that we need to start teaching our children entrepreneurial pursuits. Even more and better than just waiting to go out, graduate, and get a job, get your own business and start that. It used to be a thing of in the schools, they'd say, that's my car. No, man, that's my car. That's my car. Now we need to have our children play, that's my business. Because when you own that business, not only do you have a car, but your employees have cars. Your employees have homes. Your employees have lives. It's about empowerment. It's about the recreation, the reintegration of the greatness of our ancestors. The greatness of those that left a continent that we've been told was dark, but that continent was a gift to the world. That continent was one that we have not really been able to but scratch the surface of its importance. And we carry it within us. And when I say we, I mean every human being in here, because the mitochondrial DNA, as shown, comes from the mother of us all, found on the African continent. And yesterday I talked to the children about when does darkness end and light begin? Darkness ends and light begins. The sage asked the question. He said, when does it end? And he asked the young man. The young man pondered and he said, does it come when you can see the squirrel that's in the tree, from the tree itself, because of the cones and rods? And he started getting technical. He started getting very complicated with his answer. And Sister Tillman, I've seen her on shows where she says it's not complicated at all. It's simple. He went on, and the man said, darkness ends and light begins when you can look into the eyes of any person and see your brother or your sister. And that's why many of our family are being shot on the streets, because people do not see their brother or their sister. They do not see anybody that is worthy of the opportunity that they themselves desire. And some of our young people, we have gotten away from the process, and we've never taught them that there are two D's: desire. But desire should always come after deserve. Too many times we desire those things we do not deserve. Baby, go to your room. Sure, my room got everything in it. But tonight on our panel, we want to discuss, and we want to have a friendly discussion with each of our three panelists. Old eyes, you need glasses. I want to introduce a little more further each of our people here. It is with great joy to be in the room with people that have been icons and paradigm shifters, changers of things. We have Dr. Steve Perry, who's almost like, well, Margaret Collins preceded him, Harriet Tubman preceded her, but he came in and said that he will not allow young people to fail, and he would take that and make that more than what they had. And on a daily basis, he came to, and you all please forgive me, I'm not a paper person. Paper gets in the way of a natural process many times. I'm here, and let me get away from the microphone for 1 second. Can you hear me? Yeah. All right. I've been acting for 30 years, so we have to do that. My sister here is a gift from the Creator. She has inspired more people as the Essence magazine editor-in-chief. But previous to that, this sister here was the one who was in charge of all of the covers and the content. Just getting together that type of a process to say what is going to make people buy a magazine My sister, Tillman, Dr. Tillman, who decided that it was not proper to go and set up a process where she was recognized to have the show that we watched with the English nannies before. And then all of a sudden, all of America was just so proud and so happy that we had somebody, and is it the way we do it? We got somebody that looked like us? Not only did she look like us, but she was us. She's a gift. She is a gift to us. This brother right here. This brother keeps it real. Yes. Dr. Steve Perry keeps it real in everything he does. I'm feeling him here, and his heart is pumping here. He loves his children. He loves his people. He loves the commitment that has him here in this evening, away from where he is from, and connected with the school that was established for boys, where the myth was that they could not learn and they would not be successful. And he demystified that myth. And he broke that paradigm. He said, I will show you, as long, just like my brother Cameron did, just like Margaret Collins did, that education is not only a possibility, but it is essential for us. We thank you, my brother. Thank you. Now, we want to start to ask the question about what is the matter in which we as a community go about to deal with saving our children.
You know, the truth is we have to be engaged. I think the late legendary photographer Henri Cartier-Bresson, when he was talking to photographers the world over about the difference between capturing moments as opposed to taking mere pictures, he said it with such an edict. He said it is the decisive moment. And that's what I say to us in this day and age. It is the decisive moment. We here are privileged to walk in the dreams of our ancestors. And with that comes a responsibility and an accountability to pour into the generations that follow us. If we don't let them know, as as Alice Walker said, that they are the possible for such a time as this, who will they hear it from? If we don't encourage them to seize the future by positioning themselves to succeed now, if we don't instill upon them the value of education, that is the way and it is the equalizer. If we don't take the attention off of them making money and show them that they weren't created to make paper, which is what money is, but they were created for greatness. And not only that, that they were created to bless others in the process. If we don't replace their values and their ideas of having it all with having what matters, and here are the portals by which it is done. And finally, if we don't parent as opposed to friending our children. I can't say that enough. My mother was never my friend. She was always my mother. My father, no matter how grown I got, he was always my father. And I looked up to him. And though we would have long and intellectual conversations, he was always my father. There are some things that we have allowed to enter our arrival time, if you will, that should not be. And in order for us to take our children back and set them on the right course and change their idea about what's important, in order for us to show them that gangs aren't parenting, they are spiritually robbing them, they are killing their dreams, and they're killing them in the process. In order for us to show them the path that leads to the way to success, we first got to re-identify it for ourselves. As a parent, I speak to you from that honest place, because you can't challenge what you won't confront. And so we have to first confront it ourselves, and then we have to pour into them. And then we have to get in their lives. Too many of them have lives separate and apart from us. I didn't have a life separate and apart from my family, even when I did have a room to go to. Is anybody hearing what I'm saying? Yeah, that's real. And I don't want to like overman the mic, but there's just so many places where we got to show up ready so they can show up great. You know, when I talk to our young sisters today about, you know, realizing that they were beautiful, empowered, divine, inspired, they had not heard that before. How can you celebrate your beauty and appreciate your uniqueness if you don't know your value? If you don't even know what your name stands for, and not your nickname, your family name, if you don't understand your inheritance, and not from the place of money, if you don't understand the wealth of the line of folks you come from who did without that you might have, that still has to matter. Because when you don't know these things, you hallucinate over people, and you allow people in your lives and things in your lives that have no business being there. You hallucinate over friends who are not friends. You rent your temple out to boys who are just passing through because you need to be held and loved and told that you are beautiful, even though it's from a superficial place. You don't see the value in education. You see the value in getting paid at the end of the week, even if it means you're flipping burgers and you're an A student. You fear challenge, and you don't face challenge head on because you don't have somebody behind you saying, you can do this. And by the way, don't be afraid to fail, because some of the best have failed their way to the top. And the way to fail well is to learn from it and keep moving. Those are the things that we learned at home. They are still important. What I say today is that everything old is not antiquated. And we need to go back and get some of those things that held us up before we arrived.
First of all, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you to Superintendent Rapola and this wonderful, distinguished panel, Mikki Taylor and Dr. Steve Perry. When I think about saving our students, our children, I think about parenting, because I came to this life over 24 years ago, this journey, this calling, this responsibility, when my son had 7 child care providers, 7 in 3 months, 7, yeah. And so, watching him be abused, walking into a room, dropping him off at 9 o'clock, and then picking him up at 12, and he'd be in the same car seat with the coat on, sweating profusely. When I would walk into a back room and he'd be in a bassinet with the wall holding up a bottle and he'd be sucking air. That's when, I don't know why it took me 7 times, you know, it's something about the number 7, you know, completion. So maybe I just needed to hear it 7 times, but I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was fed up. And I think when we get tired of just talking the talk until we turn blue in the face and begin to really walk the walk, is when we will change our generation of children. Because it's not the children who are the problem. They didn't ask to come here. No child I know asked to come here. We brought them here as parents. And in bringing them here, we owe it to them a responsibility to lead by example. I mean, the parents I coach, they come in and they say, oh, Miss Deborah, fix this problem. He's falling out, fix this problem. He's getting, poor grades, Fs. Well, when did he start getting the Fs? It didn't just start in 11th grade. It started when he was, in first grade, second grade. What have we done about it? So we sort of allow things to happen and not take care of them when they need to be taken care of. And so if I could dare to say anything to you, parents, is, first of all, thank you for showing up. You know, Woody Allen said 80% of success is showing up, so thank you for being here. But in terms of being here, we have to be here for our children by being good role models for them. It makes no sense that children have to go outside of their home to find a role model, when they should find it inside of the home. My mother was very much a disciplinarian, okay? So who else had disciplinary moms, like controlling moms, like didn't take no stuff, okay? Right, so add up all of your mothers, that's my mother, okay? She wasn't gonna have it, not on her watch. And so she was my role model, and to this day, she's my role model. She led by example. So, you know, it just goes back to us. We start at the top. We model the behavior we want. If we say we want children who are compassionate and loving and know how to communicate and have good emotional resilience, then we as parents have to model that behavior. You can't be cutting people off on 95, cursing them out, calling them all kinds of names that their parents didn't name them, and your children are watching. Because you know why? Because children will listen less to what you say and more of how you live. Right. They will listen to how you live. So I say lead by example, model the behavior that you want your child to have. And then finally, we need to leave a legacy for our children. We're not setting a standard of excellence and leaving a legacy. I don't know where this mediocrity came from, but my mother demanded excellence. If you're gonna wash the dishes, wash them thoroughly. Dry them and put them away. There was no half-stepping in what you did. And so that taught us good work ethic when we were young. But when I say leave a legacy that matters. Our children don't know who they are because we don't know who we are. We don't. They need to know that they are valuable. Valuable. Not what society standards say that they're valuable. They're not the numbers on their scale. They're not the makeup they put on their face. They're not the stuff they put in their hair, okay? They have something great inside of them. But it's up to us to tell them that, because the world isn't going to tell them that. So it's about their value. That's the first fingerprint. It's about acceptance. Letting our children know that we accept them for who they are, regardless of where they live. Whether they live in Beverly Hills or Southeast or North New Jersey or East Orange, where I grew up from. They are accepted in the household that they were raised in. My father left us, my mother had 3 girls, my mother and father. He left us when I was 12, 3 days before my 12th birthday. He left my mom with 3 daughters. And I can't tell you what kind of hole that leaves in your soul when your dad, your hero, isn't there. And so one thing I will say that he taught us before he left is that he spoke life to us. He spoke life to us. Regardless of what society said, he said, there is greatness in you. All things are possible with Christ. You can do anything you want to do. I don't care what color you are. You can do it. And just because my father said it, I believed it. So I believe in speaking those things are not as though they were until they are for our children. The more we do that, the more we can raise the kinds of children that will reach their divine destiny.
It's an honor to be on this stage with 2 women who are not just passionate but accomplished. 2 mothers who inspire not just their children but by their example inspire many children. You wouldn't invite me to an event like this and expect me to be dishonest with you. Mine is not the role of the person who tells you how cute you look when it doesn't look good on you. And because I drove myself here, we don't even have to get along, because I know how to get home. Asbury Park, I'm confused. I'm confused how a town can be on the ocean, same ocean that all these other wealthy towns are on, I'm confused by the fact that you receive more money per pupil than most schools in the United States of America. In fact, more than some prisons. I'm confused when I look around and I see over 85% of your children reading, writing, and doing math below grade level. I'm confused. I'm confused because I do not understand how something can occur such as this without somebody being responsible for it. See, we can't blame poverty for everything. We can't blame the circumstances of our children for the fact that we are not teaching the children to read, write, and compute on grade level. Our problem too often is that we are committed to the adults, not the children. We are more focused on the system than the people who are supposed to benefit from it. We are more focused on the status quo and ensuring that organizations that have political clout keep their juice going while the juices don't go flowing through our children. I'm confused. So my hope is that at some point this evening, somebody will help untangle the wires in my mind. Help me to understand why in this school that used to have a capacity of 2,000 children, there are 300 children here. My commitment is today will be tomorrow and the next day to children. And if my commitment is to children, I have to be honest with the grown people. That we can have conversations about what the parents should and should not do. I'm a real educator still. Look on my hip, I got my keys on my side. That's how I carry them. I talk to these fashionistas, they tell me you can't wear those suits with a key clip on your side. But I still really do work in schools. And I too deal with parents who threaten to come down and do whatever sorts of foolishness they think is going to bother me. I bring my husband down there. Number one, he ain't your husband. I deal with children who still bring weapons to school today. Today. So you don't need to explain to me that it's hard to educate kids in the hood. But if it's hard, I can accept that. You cannot convince me that it is impossible. Because if it is so that it's impossible, let's just send them all off. Let's stop fronting, let's just send them all off to prison. If we think that there's no potential in these children, if we think that their starting point is their destiny, then why are we even faking it? If we believe that there is even an inkling of a chance, then we have to accept that the people who are paid and certified to teach them must teach them. We say things like 85% of the children are reading, writing, doing math below grade level like it's just normal. Like it's December and it's cold. Like it's supposed to be. And not just it's supposed to be, but that's the way it's always gonna be. Except for the fact that these same children go to successful schools and do just fine. So this is when we, the adults, prim and proper, well-dressed and educated, have to start taking responsibility. Anybody can preach to the people who are not here. We can talk about the folks who didn't come. I can talk to you about the sister who comes with a rag on her head that says Chanel, and God knows Chanel would never put her name on a rag like that. We can talk about the sister who comes to school and she has no bra on, acting a fool with pajama pants. It's always the ones that you don't want to see like that who do such a thing. But they're not the problem. It's us. It's the professionals. It's the electeds. It's the appointed. It's the unions who protect individuals who they know are not teaching children. They know these folks didn't teach the kids when they were in school. So here we are in Asbury Park, a place that I think is gorgeous. I genuinely believe this is a beautiful community. Yet I cannot accept the comfort that the community has with the ugliness of the performance of the schools. We have to expect more of ourselves. It's not okay that a child in 6th grade can't add fractions, subtract 2-digit numbers, and read a simple sentence and understand what the sentence was about. Folks, as Dr. Tillman said, your children are watching. Y'all don't have to believe me. You don't have to accept what I say. The truth will show itself. The truth will show itself so boldly that if you do not listen, by the next time it comes around, it's going to cost you more than the first time. Your children deserve a world-class education because they were created in the same fashion that those children from the wealthiest districts were created. Same process. Hold people accountable for your children's performance. Sure, you can take responsibility for the role that you have in it as parents. Okay, fine. But my role is to tell you that as parents, you have to be more politically active. You have to demand that a school system that you're paying so much into delivers on the backside. And I'll finish here. One of the most troubling things is when we go to church and we watch a grown person trying to read the morning announcements. These are just the morning announcements, no more complicated than a menu at a restaurant. Just saying that there's an event tonight. Yet we all sit there and wonder to ourselves, what are they saying? That's not what that says. If that's how far the parents got, then how far the children are going to go if we, as the educators, don't take full responsibility for the future of our community. I'm not going to expect the sick to heal themselves or the uneducated to educate themselves. Physicians wouldn't expect that, nor should educators. It's our job, it's our calling. If you were not called, don't answer the phone and take the job.
We changed the format a little. We would like to now have each of the panelists discuss the methods that brought you to where you are today, providing the services that you do in the way that you do. And you have 20 minutes each. Because they could do 2 hours each, so we're going to take it to the same amount of time that we have with the other answers. Same amount of time that you have with the other answers. Yes, we'll have a few more questions.
Okay, so can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, because I'm a little confused.
And I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Where you are today, how did you get here in terms of the idea, the concept that made you who you were to inspire others to be and try to aspire to what you're doing now? How did you come to the place that you are now? Your story.
Okay. In truth, I was born to do what I'm doing, but I was positioned to succeed in my home. My mother was an entrepreneur, as was my father, and there was never a question as to whether or not each of us, myself and my siblings, would do what we were gifted to do. Every time we thought that, the bar was raised and we had reached a point, my mother would raise the bar again, because we were groomed to have our lens focused on our next ability. She believed that we were created to do the amazing. And she wouldn't accept any less. And so when you grow up in a household where excellence is the barometer, you realize that you are not in a position to ever settle for mediocrity. So it's not that she, if I brought home straight A's, she didn't hold my brother accountable to bring home straight A's. But if his straight B's were what he was capable of, then he better not bring home any C's, because that was a problem. And so for me, in terms of entering the magazine and going on to empower millions of women through the avenue of beauty, empowerment, and branding, I watched that as I grew up. My mother was a childhood friend of the late American icon, that was Sarah Vaughan. And she was her wardrobe stylist, hairstylist, and makeup artist. Later, after they traveled the world together, and certainly that was my first eye-opening lens on a life of service, if you will, because my mother did not only work for Sarah, but she gave her loving services, or her gift, if you will, to women like Billie Holiday, to women like Ella Fitzgerald, to women like Lena Horne, to women like Billie Holiday, you know, and she didn't keep anything from us, even what the good, the bad, or ugly was all a part of the lens on life, and that's how we also learned to face challenge head on. In fact, I remember the day that my mother went to Billie Holiday's funeral. But I don't want to digress. What I will say, what I learned a lot about beauty and how it is our most emotional purchase is when my mother opened her own beauty salon. And I understood then that women weren't only going in to get great hairstyles, but they were going in to have their beauty affirmed and to get fellowship and nurturing from one another. And not only did they get that from one another, but they instilled the same in their daughters. And that was long before the expression came about that it takes a village to raise a child. But it is something that we always knew was powerful. So that instilled my first interest in beauty. So when by the time I got to the magazine, I was always positioned again to think beyond what one might think I was capable of, and not to allow my outlook or my destiny to be determined by anyone else. And so after being at the magazine for a year in a lesser position, if you will, in fashion and beauty, I became the magazine's beauty editor. And though my job description talked to me about affirming women and telling Black women what worked for us at a time when we weren't the standard of beauty in this country, and when there were only a handful of products that could fit in the span of my two arms that addressed us, that it was my job nevertheless to hold up the mirror on Black womanhood. I took it upon myself to educate beauty companies because I refused to allow us to be invisible women on my watch. And particularly at a period in the time in the 80s when we were entering the workforce in great number, but not earning the salaries of our Caucasian counterparts, if you will. I said all that to say that it's about initiative. You position leaders in your home to succeed. My mother encouraged me with the same thing, and my father encouraged me with the same thing that I encourage our daughters with today in our session. And that is that you have to be transformational in your thinking, in your ambitions, and in your determination to succeed. That's not up for anyone else's interpretation. The life that you want to own. Every dream that you have is worth knowing if you're willing to do the hard work and to show up great. 6 years into the company at Essence Magazine, I pitched for the position of cover editor and eventually cover director. And to this day, you will not see that position on the masthead of a magazine because they would not turn it over to anyone to brand a signature style for a magazine. But Essence did. I pitched for it. I knew exactly what I would do with it. And the magazine's readership grew from 7.5 million to 11 million plus. And what I can say honestly about every position that I hold, wherever you find my footprint, it is in service to Black women, is because it was vision, and it wasn't ever that I didn't think I could accomplish it. The other thing I know, again, if I go back to the neighborhood, the value of having a support team that begins with your parents and your guardians, and back then in the old-fashioned way, it was the aunties and the godmothers and the this one and that one. But unlike what I see happening today, I never acted in isolation. Isolation invites despair, depression, self-pity, it causes you to diminish your value. It causes you to focus on the things that you don't have and think that you can't succeed without those things. Nothing could be further from the truth. So I talk to our youngins today about having that support system that they can tap into. And what I was saying tonight, because I was raised to give honor to whom honor is due, you all need to cherish Dr. Repollet and the work, the transformational work that he's come into Asbury Park School District to do. Because the reality of it is passionate, creative minds like that could never be paid for the output that they give. He is depositing into our children and into the future. The same holds true for the game changers that work along with him. And one thing I can say that also helped me coming up and into the position that I hold now was that sense of accountability. My mother co-partnered with every person in education that I ever had, including my mentors. I wasn't sent out anywhere for anyone to raise me. She understood clearly that that was her job. She wanted to know what they were pouring into me and how she could not only support it, but challenge me to go beyond the distance. And that's essential. That's what instills accountability in you, and it stays with you throughout your lifetime. So it's not by chance or luck that I am in any place that I am, any title that I hold, and though I don't live my title experience because I really am about serving women. You know, that's another thing I say to us when I go out and talk to women. Hey, we got to stop living our title experiences. Our children don't need our business cards. They don't need us to be those titles in our homes. They need us to be parents. They need us to do this. You know, the bedside talks that you used to have, the kitchen tables talks that you used to have, and the TV wasn't on then. We didn't have phones, so that wasn't an issue. The phone belonged to the house, and your parents paid the bill, and you had to ask to use it. What I can tell you with my children, I never talked while they were texting. I wanted the undivided. And they didn't get phones, so they understood what they were for anyway. I didn't try to buy their love. I wouldn't afford that. So, you know, maybe I've gone off ramp, but there's so much to be said about why I am where I am today. Yeah, it didn't happen by osmosis. I was positioned to succeed, and it started in my home.
Deep question. How did we get here? Okay. I think it was a plan. I know it was a plan of God for me. Jeremiah 29:11 says, I know the plans that I have for you. And they are good and not of evil, to take you to your expected end. And so because I had parents who believed in Proverbs 22:6, which says, train up a child in the way that they should go so that when they grow old, they don't depart from it. Oh, training means a whole lot. I have a whole thing on training, yes. Repetition, consistency, resilience, expecting the best, like the whole nine. But I had parents who instilled that in me, particularly my mother. And so nothing happens by accident. We go through seasons in our life. We go through the winter, we go through the spring, we go through the summer, and we go through harvest. But if you haven't planted anything in the spring, then don't expect anything to reap in the harvest. And so it was up to my parents, because they knew very early on that they had to plant the seeds, to deposit those daily seeds of excellence. You hear me talk about it all the time. Excellence is not an act, it's a habit. Mediocrity does not inspire men to greatness. That is what we heard every day. And just like Mikki Taylor said, you know, it was expected. Like failure, yes, we fail, but you fail and you get back up and you try again. You don't fail and stay down. And so when you have parents who have this sort of expectation of you, then you rise to that expectation. So even if you don't inherently believe it at first, because they do, you begin to. I never forget, I went to Kenya some years ago to do some missions work, and I met with the Maasai warriors. And their greeting, you know, in America, how our greetings, we say, how are you? And we say, you know, fine, I'm fine. You're talking to somebody in Spanish, you say, que pasa? And, or French, you say, como allez-vous? Korean, yanko say yo. Okay. In Kenya, the Maasai warriors, their greeting is, how are the children? Imagine that. A nation that devises, that is so important to them, that they don't even say the greeting is the children. And if the children aren't doing well, then the country's not doing well, then they're not doing well. So even though, yes, I quit my job, I told you about that after the 7 child care provider experiences, I quit my job, but that was out of desperation. I told you, you gotta be sick and tired of being sick and tired, or you have to be desperate. I was desperate. I was done. I knew I could do it better than they were doing it. And I never wanted a parent to feel the pain I felt those 7 times. Now, I will tell you that all things work together for the good, because out of the last 23 years, there hasn't been one parent, I don't care if it was the 2nd year, the 5th year, the 20th year, the 23rd year, every single one of those 7 experiences that I went through, one parent came through my door that had that exact experience, that I was able to look at and not just say, I get it, but I really get it. I understand. I have been where you are, and out of pain comes purpose sometimes, and you just gotta walk in it. And so that's what I tell them, but so it didn't happen for no reason. Our children need us. There's nothing more important than the parent-child relationship. And so my work on America's Super Nanny, that was a fluke. Okay, really, honestly, I'll tell you, I did not apply for that job. I was just doing the work in excellence at my schools. I had 3 schools, preschools, and what I get are the 25% kids, a little different from Dr. Perry, but I get 25% of children that get kicked out of preschool. How do you get kicked out of preschool? You're 3. I get those kids. How can you take those same kids and they thrive at my school? Because we believe in them. Because we don't allow parents to come in on the phone and talk to, you know, Shanae or whoever they're talking to. I don't care if it's Alice, whoever they're talking to. And the child is pulling on them. Mommy, look what I did today. Look what I drew today. And the mother's on the phone. Literally, this is me. The way you hear me now is the way I am in my school. I take their phone from them and I say, excuse me. She'll call you back after she pays some attention to her child. Done. Like, we do not play. Because it's not about my child. My child's 23 years old. He graduated from Georgetown University. He is not working for anybody. He has started his own business. He's an entrepreneur. Why? Because he saw his mother do that. He dropped her job for him. And so that's what he was trained in. But my child isn't great. My child isn't great until your child is great. Till each one of your children out there are great. That's when my child's great. So it's going to take all of us working together and not talking the talk, really doing the work to say, look, I didn't birth this child, but I don't have to birth a child and still love a child. I don't have to have birthed your child to love your child. I can love your child. And if a mom is having a problem with a 2-year-old in the grocery store, why am I giving her the side eye? A few years ago, I was going through that when the child was falling out, temper tantrum. Why are we doing that? We are here to uplift, to inspire, to support one another, not to bring each other down. And so the work that I do now is, yes, I run the schools, but I have a great team of people that run the school when I'm doing these sort of things. But I started the parenting movement. And the parenting movement is stemmed out of American Super Nanny, where I kept getting calls. Come help me, come help me, come help me. I'm desperate. My child's, at their wit's end. The child's 15 years old. So when I went in with God, and literally I saw that it wasn't about the kids. It really was the parents. How can you tell your child to stop hitting their brother when you're knocking them upside their head every 2 seconds? How can you tell a child to learn how to communicate and have emotional resilience and conflict resolution if you don't, if you're emasculating your husband, or vice versa? And so I went in and dealt with the parents first. Because you gotta be free to be me. They had to be free to be themselves. And all of that stuff that they were carrying, all those weights, that fear, that doubt, that guilt, that shame, that came from generational curses, we had to unpack and get rid of before we could even deal with the kids falling out in the temper tantrum. So that's the work that I do now, and what I do is empower and equip parents to be parent leaders. So I'm in the Alexandria Public School Systems, and I do a 6-module course because I'm not about putting a cosmetic face on real problems. I want to go into one school. I remember when I got the contract, they said, okay, you can go to Samuel Tucker this week, and then you can go to another school this week, and you can go to another school. I said, no, that doesn't work for me. Because I'm into transformation. And transformation is some deep diving, it's some intensive stuff. And that's going to take me more than one session to get through. So it's a 6-week module, and I only take a certain amount at a time. And I take parents who are serious about changing and transforming their lives so that their children can reach their divine destiny. So if you're playing around with it, you know, if you want me to come pat you on the back and just be like, oh, everything is great, like, you know, TV sometimes try to make you do that. That's not Miss Deborah, okay? I come in, we get the work done so that we can be serious about leading the next generation and leaving this world a better place for them. That's what I do, that's how I do.
You know, as I reflect, I'm often asked, how did you end up here? And my honest answer is, I do not know. Statistically, it wasn't supposed to happen. What does become of the child who was kicked out of preschool at 3? Well, he writes 4 books, starts 3 schools, and comes down to hang out in Asbury Park to talk to you about education. What becomes of the child who was left back in the 4th grade, or whose father was in prison by the time he was a senior in high school, or whose brother went to prison a couple weeks ago? He comes down to Asbury Park to talk to you about how we can avoid having children left back, going to prison, and falling short of their destiny. What I did was what many people do. I believe that vision is a blessing and a curse. I believe that we are given the responsibility to see something, to see a problem. The opportunity to see a problem and the responsibility to do something about it. The unfortunate thing is too few of us actually take the second part of that. So many people say what they think should be done, but often fall short of doing it. Somebody should go talk to that teacher over there. If you said it, you should do it. Somebody needs to teach that kid how to mind. If you saw it, it's on you to do. So, when I was working in a suburban school in Connecticut, we had a part-time out-of-school program in a place called Windsor, Connecticut, which doesn't mean and shouldn't mean much to you except for the fact that at one point it was said to have the second wealthiest black population in America. And when I was walking in that school and I could determine the level of class by the color of the children, and the darker the child, the lower the class, it seemed to me that while I may not be really good at this thing of running schools, I daggum sure could probably run it better than these people. All we did to become effective at what we did and do was to set specific expectations that were based upon successful models. We started a year-round school. Why? Because we worked in a school system that had a 29% graduation rate. So why on God's earth would you send children to home for 6 to 8 weeks during the summer when you know daggone well that they need all the support they could get? Why would you send home children at 2:15 when you know they need more education, not less? Why would you tolerate an ineffective educator simply because she's nice, because she's pregnant with her first child, and she and her husband just bought a house? That's not my problem, love. I am unapologetic about the fact that these children that we are charged with, that we are blessed with the opportunity to educate, I'm telling you, I've had the opportunity to do some really cool things. Not as cool as Miss Mikki, because she's got a whole different thing going on. She says people's name like Barack. You're like, Barack? Like, that Barack? He had you over at the house, like the White House? Okay, continue with the story. But in all the opportunities that I get to do the really cool things that people do, I've never liked doing anything more than working with kids. Right. There's nothing more impactful than to have a child who's got something on his hands, and you know he's got something on his hands, coming full speed to come and give you a full speed, full contact hug that you know you and your dry cleaner are going to have a conversation about. How did you get that stain there? What had happened was, and because I get to do this, I have no tolerance or patience for individuals who don't take what we do seriously. I did an interview with NPR a couple years back, and the broadcaster said to me, "Why are you so angry?" Trying to play up on the angry black man thing. Look, I had to explain to people for a long time that I'm black, because for a lot of people I might look Puerto Rican or something, so I gotta claim like I really am African American. So calling me angry and black doesn't necessarily hurt my feelings. At least you know I'm black. And since we're at it, why are you not angry? How can you see children who can't read in 2015 and you're not angry? Why is that acceptable? How can you come up? What do you do? What sort of mental gymnastics do you do to convince yourself that this foolishness is all right? Why are you not angry? And why doesn't that anger turn into you doing something about it? You know, it's easy to say, well, you know, we could run a school better than him. I hope you can. Please beat me. Nothing would make me happier than to hear you say, yeah, you had a 99% daily attendance for children grades pre-K 3 to 12. 99% daily attendance on a 201-day school year. Beat me. I'm cool with that. Get you 100. I'll take that all day. With a 97% graduation rate. You get that 100. I'm cool with that. 100% of our graduates go on to 4-year college. 96% of them roll in the fall. These are black, Latino, and poor kids, y'all. I'm not talking about some magical place where we pick the kids from. I'm not talking about some amazing neighborhood. I'm talking about kids that look like your kids, that would be just the same as your kids, that would tell the same stories of degradation and disgust of their normal circumstances. I'm talking about regular kids. I'm talking about 70% of those children graduating from college, 4-year colleges. I didn't say 2-year college, not like there's anything wrong with it, but look, if you're going to send your kid to 4-year colleges, then my kids can go there too. The point is, how I got here, I do not know. You know, I think sometimes we try to make sense out of nonsense. Look, man, I'm here. That's all that matters to me. And I'm here until such time as I'm not. But as long as I'm upright, I feel I have to be compelled to tell you the truth that this does not have to be the reality going forward. Our school was designed, and our schools are designed on simple, basic principles. I was in the Bronx last night in a housing project, and the sister said to me, well, tell me how your school is any different than these other schools. I said, the successful ones, I hope it looks just like it. I hope we look exactly like all the successful schools. We're a year-round school. Why year-round? Because our children need more education, not less. We have an extended day. Why? Because we need more education, not less. Every single child has an advisor. Why? Because when you go to the wealthy white school system, that's what they have. And when you go up in education, when you are higher in education, when you go from high school to college, and then you go from college to graduate school, you get an advisor. And in fact, the longer you stay in school, the more one-to-one you get. So why wouldn't we give that to the children who are most in need? Wouldn't it seem to make sense that we would give the most resources to those children who are most in need? We took what we saw in upper bound programs, the same upper bound programs that work with children from historically disadvantaged populations. All we did was put it in the school. We didn't invent anything. All we did was copy. I went to visit schools where parents pay a lot of money, and I sat down and I watched what they did. I watched the same books that they used. If they bought that book, we bought that book. I'm telling you, I don't want to be given credit for coming up with anything. All I did was what I was supposed to do. I saw a problem, and we are in the process of solving it. And in solving that problem, it doesn't work if we just solve the problem with a couple of kids from our communities that I open some schools in. I put 700 kids in our schools, and then we go around and we applaud, we pat ourselves on the back. We send another 100% of our kids to 4-year college, go us. Win a state championship, go us. Win state championships, even in forensics. Kids called me and said, Dr. Perry, we won. I said, what y'all win? We won the whole thing, No, you didn't, because we didn't have science labs. So how is it possible for you to be some of the wealthiest, whitest communities in the country when we didn't have a science lab, and all we did was send you down there in that competition with an English teacher?
Wow.
Don't let anyone tell you what our kids are limited by. The only limits that our children have are the systems that we put around them. The only limits that our children are suffering is us. On the day that we decide that our children are amazing, on the day that we accept, because I say, look, I can't quote one single Bible verse. I mess it up. God is still working with me. That's why he made Bishop Jakes and our friends, because Bishop will call me and, do what Bishop does. Because I need it. Y'all can't send me a regular preacher. I need a boss to come in and work with me. Because the reason I got kicked out of pre-K was because I cussed a lot. Ask my wife, I still cuss a lot. Who knew that the F word could be so many things? A noun, a verb, an adjective, a conjunction. It just does so many things for you in so many different ways. All I've done is assemble a team of people who really love kids, who are unwilling to relent, who are unwilling to accept failure as a standard, who are unwilling to look into the beauty of our children, who will go to church on Sunday, praise God, talk about how much it means to them, and then sit and look at other people's children like they're somehow stained. Their children were created by the same God that yours were. How dare you see them as anything other than that?
I don't know about you, but I'm excited. Yeah. The words this evening by our panelists are inspiring, emotional, and much needed.
Life-changing.
I think the wisdom, their experience, that they're imparting on us in saving our students is exactly what this district needs. And Dr. Perry talked a lot about some of the things that we're talking about now. I challenge my staff at our convocation to rise up and to believe. And I can say this, we have created in 1 year a group of dedicated individuals that share a common goal, share a common mission in building a brighter future, and we call those individuals Hard Hat Nation.
Yeah.
So if you're a Hard Hat Nation, if you're an employee of the school district, you're an administrator, you're a teacher, you're a custodian, or you're a security guard, please stand up for me. And I'm going to give you a round of applause because this year of my administration has been amazing. And as members of the Hard Hat Nation and the leader of these dedicated individuals and community members, I salute you for your hard work. I salute you because every day we come here and we work hard to build a brighter future for our students. This is not just a motto that I say, it's what we live every day. From our literacy initiative to our leadership development to our dedicated staff and what they do every day during their common planning time, the professional learning community. I know we ask a lot of you, but as Dr. Perry talked about, we see there's a problem and we're going to fix it. So when I talk about Hard Hat Nation, we're talking about rebuild the educational foundation, to retool the capacity to educate our students, and restore the pride that this tradition, that this wonderful city has. I have two individuals that are from here. Where are you? Please stand up. Two alumni. If you're an alumni of Asbury Park, please stand up as well. I have individuals come from Maryland here this evening because they believe in what we're doing. We call this an educational renaissance, and this is just one example. We have a parent center that has been renovated, and it's going to be a grand reopening, and I'm happy to say that we have Dr. Deborah Tillman to come in, not to just be our keynote speaker, but to work with our parent liaisons to ensure that the passion that she's talking about, the commitment to those parents and those families, she's going to teach us. She's going to give us the tools to do that. So right now, I need to show, I don't have a crystal ball, but I have an imagination, I have dreamed, and I have been successful. So what I'm showing you today is the end product of what we talk about building a brighter future. In this video, you're going to see our kids shining. You're going to hear them talking about our leadership initiative, our literacy initiative. And this is our latest video of building a brighter future. Watch and enjoy. Put the full screen. Our motto at Asbury Park is building a brighter future. And building a brighter future is about hope and opportunity for each individual student we have in the district.
Restoring the tradition and the pride of Asbury Park is what's key. Our role will be ensuring that we have created an environment and a culture where students can thrive and achieve at high levels.
They care about what you want to do in life, and they help you pursue your dreams.
The teachers are very nice, they're very understanding. I just like how they motivate us and they always support us with anything we want to do.
Outside the classroom, they can come talk to us, and for a child to know that someone else besides their parents care makes them feel a little bit more safe.
It's not a secret that we have a tremendous amount of challenges that the students face outside of school, so we try to prepare the whole student so that they can be a functioning body of society.
There's a lot of motivation and there's a lot of people who care and want you to succeed. A lot of the teachers and the faculty staff, they really bust their butt. They'll work really hard to make sure we have the right materials or make sure we have different type of experiences.
Last year we took our students to Europe. We were in Harvard this past summer. We were doing so many different things. It's a renaissance.
They say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, this is our village, the school, the community, the city, the district.
When you do good in school, it makes more opportunities for you out in life.
The primary focus for us should be to ensure that all of our students are reading on grade level by 3rd grade. We have a very comprehensive plan that starts pre-K, goes all the way to the 12th grade, and includes adult literacy.
With this program, we can kind of tap into some of the areas that they are not getting, as well as the integration of technology that the program offers.
Students have opportunities to have individualized small group instruction, as well as individual one-on-one instruction.
We prepare them for a brighter future by providing them with the atmosphere and the tools so that they can be prepared to socialize, to think outside of Asbury Park.
They are preparing me because every day we talk about what colleges we can go to, what classes we gotta take.
I've been looking at colleges, searching which colleges have my major.
We're one of the schools that provide the most monies for scholarships for our students, and not many people know that.
Whether it's in a job where they create for themselves or they go out and have those skill sets that employers are looking for. Asbury right now is gearing itself up with the focus on literacy to prepare students to do that.
We have district leadership, a superintendent that's very focused, has created a team of wonderfully talented individuals to ensure that the restoration that this fine school district needs is on its way.
And with the right programs in place, our students can do it.
I chose to go here because I just wanted to be part of my community, and it also molded me to who I am today. So without the school, I wouldn't be me.
So this is your Asbury Park School District. And you see that video, you talk about building a brighter future, it's hope and opportunity. But that video shows an environment and a culture that is thriving for students and thriving to help students achieve. I'm just so proud of the work that we're doing here. More importantly, for those individuals in the community that came out here today for our event, I greatly appreciate that. Right now, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Brian Stokes for some last words and to say thank you on behalf of the Asbury Park School District. I thank this wonderful panel. Thank you for coming. I know you guys are busy lives. I want to thank my board members this evening for coming out. Thank you for coming out. I want to thank my administrators and faculty. So, Mr. Brian Stokes, I'm going to introduce him. Him and his team, we have created a College and Career Institute. So this College and Career Readiness Institute is exactly what it says, college and career ready. Their goal is to find internships, expose our students to college, and if Brian is in district hanging out with the teachers and the students, I have a problem with that. Because Brian's job is to get out in the community and try to find opportunities for our students and internships. And he's been doing a wonderful job of bridging that. I want to thank the advisory committee today that Brian has created for us that will actually help shape and mold the direction of our College and Career Readiness Institute. They'll provide mentoring opportunities for our students, internships, job shadowing, coaching, and also college opportunities. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Brian Stokes. He is our supervisor of the College and Career Readiness Institute.
First, I'd like to say to our panel and our moderator, thank you. Simply. I like to look at college and career readiness as a verb or an action phrase because we move. We get kids moving. We motivate them. We allow them to see and tap into their own greatness. And that's my responsibility. And 23 years in education, 25 years in business and entrepreneurship has allowed me to understand, and working in urban education has allowed me to understand somewhat of what our students need. They need to understand the strength and the power in their name. I grew up in East Orange. The school is named after my great-grandfather in East Orange. I went to University High in Newark. Okay, they need to understand that they represent more than themselves. They need to understand that they need mentors. Okay, to this day, at 49 years old, I still have a mentor. And what I'm teaching and have been taught is what I'm trying to impart to the students here in Asbury Park and the community at large, the business owners. So we want to accept what they have done and applaud what they have done. But like my mentor says to me, we acknowledge all those things, and then what he says is, but I need you to stretch. That's what I need these kids to do. I need them to understand that they have to stretch. Just like they work out in the sports and all the things that they do here very successfully, they need to work out their brains. And they need to stretch. And that's what we're here to do. So I see progress from September, even from this summer until today. The degree of attentiveness that the students have, the questions that they ask, these people that we've been blessed to be able to bring to them, and the other speakers that came this week, we put them in intimate sessions, 40, 50 kids, 60 kids at a time, close-knit, and these kids really start asking questions.
We had a gentleman on Monday from the South Bronx, which is where he grew up, and he had a dream, and he decided he wanted to be an owner of McDonald's. Well, he flew up from North Carolina, and he owns 11 McDonald's in North Carolina, and he's from the South Bronx. So they had questions for him. They wanted to understand how you did this. That's what we're about. We're about action. We're not about talking to them, talking the talk. We're about walking the walk. And that's what we're here to do. And it's a process, and we need everybody involved. It's not just myself or my staff who's helped us to put this together. And I want to thank them very much. I want to thank the board for the support. And this is not a one-shot deal. This is going to be a yearly symposium. So please, when you leave here, tell the other community members that, look, we're here and we're making changes and we need your help. Because this place needs to be full. Because we're doing great things. So I'm not a wordsmith. I just want to say thank you for coming out. Thank you for the panel. And I expect and I hope that you help us. And have a great evening. Thank you so much.